You hear the thing, you live once. People say that. That's not true. You die once. You should live every day. I don't want to be on a deathbed and saying, I had a great conservative life. I was very safe. Well, I've always taken gambles. You're going to fail. Definitely, you're going to fail.
Welcome to the CEOpeek show, where we uncover the essence of extraordinary leadership by interviewing CEOs with over 90% approval ratings on Glassdoor. Hello, Ernesto. Thank you for joining the CEOpeek show today.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you for the invite. Appreciate it.
We just checked in for 2 minutes. I already felt connected to you in some way. You're a very approachable person.
I like to think so.
Yeah. So I really appreciate your time that you join us today for this interview, which we want to learn about your leadership. Just look at your LinkedIn profile and check your Glassdoor reviews. We invite CEOs with more than 90%, and you have 93% approval rate on Glassdoor, and the company's 4.2 stars out of 5. So I'm sure that we will have a lot of things to talk about today. So I'm curious, actually, you feel there was a pivotal moment in your life that you sense that you made kind of a transition in the way that you lead teams and businesses?
I do. I think so. I think I worked for public traded companies and then decided to come and start this company pretty much from scratch about eight years ago. And I think on my last company, I noticed that there were some things that I had learned. You learn from everybody, either good or bad. You still learn from a lot of things. And I think at that point, I said, there's a lot of things I would like to do that I've learned watching people that I think I could do something, make a difference. So in order to do that, I like to do something from scratch. And so I came over, left out, was at a public traded company, was COO, and decided to come and start something pretty much from scratch with the idea of more on the people side. And that's what we've done. That was the moment I actually talked to my wife about it because I was getting tired of my ideas in the company. And then I said, let me just try it on my own. And that's what happened.
Yeah. So you started it from scratch. And what did you mean by with the idea of people in mind? What did you mean by that?
So our company's engineering. We're civil engineering. We don't sell things. All we sell is brain power, time. That's all we do. So we have over 2,000 employees. So we're pretty big. So it's all about people in terms of clients and in terms of employees. But you got to understand that it's careers for these guys. And you have to make sure that you're giving them the opportunities to grow. If they're happy at work, they're going to be happy at home. They're not happy at work, they're not going to be happy at home. And their spouse is going to be saying, go get another job. Because that's exactly what's happened to me, right? Your spouse usually can tell when you're not doing well and they tell you, move on. So when we started the company, I always say this company's been built a little bit of my baggage. So it always hasn't been a smooth road, Dave. It hasn't. And you learn things along the way. You try new things. And I said, I have ideas, things that I see work, things I haven't seen work, and let me try them out. And so I think at that point, I had enough baggage on that I've learned the years. I go, let me go try something from scratch.
I sense that you kind of bridge the personal and the professional. You mentioned your spouse. In mean that you can see how that people skills are actually like a cross beyond just the professional into the personal. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I think to me, this job it's a job. Would I do it for free? Probably not, Dave. But it's more to me than just a job. I mean, it's part of my life. I blended kind of it. Most of the people I work with are friends of mine. This is my second family. So it's not just about I come in 9 to 5 job. That's not the way it works. I believe that if you enjoy what you do, it impacts your entire life. My wife, my kids tell me it's obvious to them I love what I do. And I do. I love what I do. I think I'm very fortunate and blessed to be in this position. But I want everybody to feel that same experience, to think of it more than a job. Think of it as an opportunity for you to grow also personally. And so we put a lot of programs, a lot of stuff in the company to try to get their careers kind of moving and not just make it a job. So been very flexible, and we have a very low turnover rate that shows that. We don't lose many people.
So what you mean is like you invest in their own development?
We do. We have a lot of, so I'll tell you, when we started the company, this is what we did, which is kind of a little bit unique, I guess. We started with what's called an employee council. So we told the employees, I think about 30, the company was small at the time, we will take care of all the outside stuff, the business development, the investments and all that. Anything in the company, you take care of. All the programs in the company, help us with the benefits and all that kind of stuff. You guys make those decisions. All we're going to do is fund it. And 8 years later, that's how it's working. pretty much every program, we have hundreds of programs in the company. The employees have developed them themselves. So I think there's about 30 people they rotate. They once a year or twice a year tell me this is what we like to do. And we're okay with it. And we usually fund it. So in many ways, they're building the company with us. It's the way we take care of certain things, you take care of certain things. And I think that's helped us a lot in people realizing that it's not just a job for them too. They're part of a team. They're building something with us together. So it's worked out really well for us.
Wow, this is so fascinating. It sounds like you are, how do you call it, like a VC, venture capital company that fund and build a bunch of entrepreneurs, engineers that work in a company to create those programs.
Yeah. We have acquired a lot of firms. And I'll tell you one thing, none of the owners have left. So there's about 40 owners. I think 2 have retired. All the other ones are still here. They all could leave. They all have made enough money, but they're here for another reason. Yeah, it's not about the money. It's not about the ego. It's about building something kind of cool. And I think everybody's bought into that. We're trying to build a special company where we can provide great career opportunities and people have fun. So we do have a lot of fun at the company. We make fun of ourselves quite a bit. And part of it is the clients see that. Clients are people, right? They want to be able to work with people where they can have fun and do certain things. There's serious moments, but it's actually worked to our advantage in terms of we have very low bureaucracy. So very low bureaucratic company, very entrepreneurial. And I think it's worked for us quite well. So always, as the company gets bigger though, they were always very conscious of not adding too much bureaucracy. Yes, it's getting pretty big, but keep that entrepreneurial spirit and make sure the employees love what they're doing. So we're very much in contact with our employees. Right now, for example, we're redoing our website. We let the employees take care of that, just to give you an idea. We have little groups. You guys tell us how the website should look like, and I just say at the end, yeah, it looks good. So we very much cite very little when it comes to the outside or internal part of the company. The employees cite all that, and it's worked to our advantage.
So how do you lead? How do you create a leadership team when you have, you mentioned like 30 owners and you have such a collaborative entrepreneurial mindset? How do you have a leadership team? Do you work like in a typical organizational structure of a senior leadership team or executive leadership team? How do you lead?
Yeah, interesting. So yes, we've acquired firms. It's when we're looking at companies we want to acquire, the leaders to us are important. If there's an ego part that they can't let go, that probably is not going to work with us. So most of them have been CEOs. They come here for a different reason. So our organizational structure, we have one, but I will tell you, most of the company actually doesn't know what this org structure looked like. So we actually don't put it up anywhere. And the reason is, if we start behaving like an org structure, shame on us. Because as soon as you put an org structure up, people start putting walls. This is my revenue. This is your revenue. And most of these people came from smaller companies. So I would say 90% of the employees don't even know what the org structure of the company is. Of course, all the leaders do, but we're very careful how we actually manage the company in terms of not setting up walls. So I can tell you there's an org structure, but most people don't even know what it is. Of course, everybody knows who their reporting structure is and that kind of stuff. But in terms of how we count the beans and all that, most people do not know.
That's so interesting.
And that's part of the baggage. I learned a long time ago in many companies that you can start making competition within groups that actually could damage yourselves just by being, my revenue goes this way, I'll get a higher bonus. So an example on the bonus, our bonus program is based on the entire company, not how each operation does. How we all work together and our bonuses are appropriately divided that way. And so what we're trying to do is not have competition, but everybody help each other out. We're better kind of together. So far it's been working, but it's always a work in progress.
I coach senior leaders in organization, and one of the biggest problems is that silos that they have within organization, and also different reporting lines. Eventually, what happened at the middle of the organization in large organizations or the bottom is a reflection of what happens at the top.
It's been one of the best evolved, and I can't tell you I know the whole answer, Dave, because I'd be lying to you. But it's been one of the most unique things that have happened. We don't have a very siloed organization. And partially, as I told you, we don't advertise the org chart in the company. We just don't. Everybody knows who they report to. And the leaders, when we check them out, we tell them this is not a competition. They work well together. They're all working well together. They've all noticed that us working together, we're doing better together than as opposed to separate. But we managed to have the right cult, the right people, right? When we're looking at companies, that's part of what we're looking at. Why do you want to sell the company? If you're not going to make it out here. If you come in and being competitive, the other guys will sniffle you out. They're not going to go for it. And so that's been one of our strengths in the company.
So going back to that leadership team, so do you have a leadership team or how it works?
I actually have direct reports that report to me, right? The CFO, the COO, that kind of stuff. And below that, we have regional structure, and they report to those organizations. So we do have one. What I'm trying to avoid is silos. We don't have silos. We have an org structure, but the org structure, it's a matrix organization so that everybody works across each other. And when we don't, we call them out. We call people out when they're not working together in front of everybody, or the others will call them out. So it's a very open organization in terms of when things are not working well. And when we actually talk about it, hey, we're getting a little bit too competitive among ourselves, we're very open about it, which is kind of different from an organization I worked at where people just did their thing. So we're saying, hey guys, you guys are getting too competitive between us. You guys need to work together. And at that point it ends and they start working together. So we're very open about the fact that we do not want to create silos. We talk about it.
Yeah. So let's circle back to the ego. You mentioned it a few times. For me, ego was a major struggle. I started my career as a fighter pilot outside of the corporate.
Mm-hmm.
So if you watch Top Gun, you get the essence of how big is the ego of a fighter pilot. And then I went all the way to CEO. And so for me, ego, even now in this conversation, I feel the ego actually wants to play, hey, do show up or kind of. So it's always kind of when people talk about ego, I see the struggle of tuning down the ego that have been developed for so many years. So I'm curious, what is that journey for you? Because you mentioned that, and how do you help others? You mentioned CEOs that join your organization to, I don't know if letting go is the right way, but maybe quiet it down.
Yeah. I'll tell you an interesting story, Dave. My father was an immigrant who did extremely well in real estate. He came from a country, he didn't have anything, struggled, but learned. And so I was the first one to go to college in my family. Okay. So he pushed me to go to college. So when I finished college, I grew up in Montreal. I decided to go on my own and move to Vancouver, British Columbia. So I was packing my car and my father comes to me and says, I'm supposed to give you words of wisdom, good advice as you're leaving. He goes, so here's just the words of wisdom. You're not as good as you think you are. And I said to him, I think it's supposed to be positive words of wisdom. He goes, it is. You haven't just figured it out yet. So it took me a couple of years to figure out, but what he was trying to tell me is, we all think we're better than we are, or else we have low self-esteem, right? But you have to be humble enough to understand that you don't even know what you don't know. And that when I was younger, I thought I knew it all. Now, as I get older, I don't know a lot of things. Every day I learn stuff. But I think the lesson was that you have to be open enough to understand that you do not know everything. And you have to humble yourself that you can learn from somebody. You can learn from almost everybody. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but you can learn from everybody. So it's been on the back of my mind, Dave, always to make sure that I'm always willing and open to learn from people. I think you have to humble yourself. You know this, Dave, as you get older, you actually become more like, yeah, I don't know all that stuff. When you're young, you think you know it all. So I think in our organization, we do have a lot of these owners who are that way. We have a very humble kind of group. Yes, there's still always a little bit of confidence, right? You have to have a bit of confidence, but not to the point where it degrades the whole team. You have to be able to learn. I see it from a lot of these young people. Dave, I have a guy's intern. He says to me, I want to have your job. And so I say to him, what do I do? And they look at me. I go, tell me what I do. And they don't know. They don't know what I do. So it's really the title you're going for. And that's actually, Dave, I never aspired to be a CEO. It's actually interesting. I never really wanted this job, never aspired to it. It's just the way things kind of worked out. I like what I do, not necessarily the title, but was never an aspiration for me to be CEO. It's just the way it worked out for me.
Well, you had a very smart father.
Yeah. Didn't think so at the time, Dave. At the time, I didn't think so. But yeah, he was right.
Yeah. It's funny. Recently, I took an assessment, and the assessment told me Enneagram, if you heard, and it told me that I always think that I'm better than I am. And I remember my parents told me always, "Oh, you're the best." Okay, that was not smart to tell me.
Well, there has to be confidence, right? We all think we're better than we are. There has to be a little bit of confidence, but you got to be able to also. So you got to believe in yourself. but at the same time, not to the point where you overtake everybody or think you know it all. So life humbles you, Dave. Failures humble you, right? And that's what's happened. I mean, when I was probably in my 20s, I thought I knew it all. And now it's, man, you crash and burn many times. You realize that it's a learning process. Life is. And so you humble yourself. So I'm very open. I think I'm very open to learning new things and learning from people.
So what happens? Did it happen before that you hired and somebody that you found that is a big ego? What did you do then when you had a big ego in the team?
We did have a person on board. He came on and it was a mistake on my part. I actually could tell from the beginning, but we still moved forward anyway. And you think you could change people. I knew. And it lasted like a month and I had to move quickly and I could tell it was affecting the rest of the team. I told him, listen, I don't know if this is the way you work, but it doesn't work in our organization. You can't change him. So I told him it was best that we go our separate ways. So yeah. And the funny thing is, I knew before I hired him, before he moved in, that it was probably going to be a problem and I still moved forward. So that was a learning lesson. Sometimes you have to follow your gut in terms of what's telling you. So now I'm much more careful in terms of how I do how you bring people into the team to make sure they're going to work out. So now I have other people interview them as well. If you guys tell me, especially a very important position, I get the rest of the team to help me out here.
Do you still believe that people can change?
Certain things, not everything. I think certain age, obviously when you're a 20-year-old kid, of course, you're still living through life. I think when you're a 55-year-old person, it's going to be very hard for you to change some of the way you lead and that kind of stuff, right? So let's just be honest. I mean, you can be open to things, but I'm stuck in my ways in many ways. I could be stubborn. Ask my wife. I can be stubborn in many ways. I think it'd be very hard to change certain things.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it depends how old you are, where you are in life, right? You're set in your ways.
I don't know. Maybe it's actually the opposite. My kids are all in the late 20s. I have 3 kids and 2 of them crossed the 30s. And I see how younger people are actually more difficult to change than older because there's something happening midlife, especially when you're young, you see all life is ahead of you. When you cross towards like you can see or you can connect to your mortality, people actually are open to change. And I'm in a business of changing people because I'm an executive coach. But I agree with you that it's not easy. It's hard, but it's a choice that people need to make.
Let me take it back. I think you're right to a degree. So there is people who are always looking to improve, to change themselves. I've had executive coaches myself because you want someone to give you perspective on where you're at, right? So I actually have one. So I'm always looking to kind of improve. But some people are not open to that, Dave. Some people are not open to those coaches. I don't need a coach. What do I need a coach for? I'm 55, 60-year-old man. I don't need a coach. And so those are the people that are hard to move. I think certain leadership, so you have to be able to convince yourself that you're not everything and not everybody can do that. And it's hard. You got to swallow your pride, right?
Yeah. And I totally agree. It's a choice that people need to make, a very intentional choice. I want to develop. I want to continue to grow in my 50s or my 60s or whatever.
Not everybody's wanting to do that because they figure they've already got there. What's there to change? Nothing's wrong with me. So it's not that there's nothing wrong with you. I think it's good to have another perspective of people talking to you and telling you or talk through things, right? And so I've in the past I don't need a business coach. I used to say that. What do I need a business coach for? It's like a psychiatrist. I don't need a psychiatrist. But then I think as life went on, I go, you know what? I've tried them and I go, they're actually good. It depends how you use them for. They can be very good for you.
I remember coaching a senior leader, an executive that decided that he don't want to change. And we were in like 3rd session. I said, so what are we doing here? And probably we should cut it off. And then I started to speak about his relationship with his daughter. And it was a mess. He actually started crying. And I ran forward, hey, this is what will happen to the relationship if you won't change. We still didn't continue. He didn't want to change.
Yeah. I have people in our organization. So right now in our industry, there's a big gap between older and younger. There was a gap there where a lot of people did not enter our profession. So we have a lot of people in maybe their 50s and then the next, not in their 40s, 30s and 20s. And so not to get into generational, but they think differently. And so some of our guy goes, these young people are lazy. These people don't work hard. They don't blah, blah. And that's not true. I go, they have just believe in a better balance of life. And I'm generalizing. But I'm telling these guys, hey guys, you have to change with what's happening in the world, right? It's not generations change things. So some of our guys are struggling with it. And the way I use it is, remember when you used to look at your leaders and you used to complain about them? Same idea. But it is, some of them are struggling. Me, I think some of the young people bring ideas that, yeah, it makes sense how they look at life. Yeah, it makes sense. I'm not sure our generation has it correct. And it's changing and I can't do anything about it. I just have to learn how to live with that change and work with them. It doesn't mean they're going to be failures. It's just different. And so I think you have to be willing to be open to what's happening in the world.
Yeah. My two older boys are Generation Y and my daughter is Generation Z, just a few years apart. And it's such a big difference.
Yeah, my kids, so I'm going to tell you a funny story. So my son, I have a son and daughter. They're both in their early 20s. They just both happen to be engineers as well. So during Christmas, I was asking my son, are you guys busy at work? Oh, yeah, we're extremely busy. He goes, a lot of overtime. I go, do you guys get paid for overtime? Oh, yeah. I go, how much overtime are you working? Well, I'm not working any overtime. I said, I thought you had a lot of work. I do. He goes, but I don't need the money. And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. I don't need the money, so I'm not working overtime. And I'm like, so it's just a different thought. Me, when I was his age, I didn't get paid overtime and I had to work it, right? And in his mind, he's actually balancing his life. So who has it wrong? I don't know. But that's his perspective and it's not wrong or right? To me, I look at I was fumbled a bit, and this just happened at Christmas time. I was like, wow. So it's different.
So if I join your leadership team meetings or other meetings in organization, I sense that there's some kind of a different culture in your organization. So what will I sense that what is the culture if I will kind of an outsider come and join your meeting? How do you describe the culture?
So we start almost all the meetings, like the big meetings, with a joke or two. It's mandatory. So first of all, you have to be on time. Everybody's 5 minutes early. We start the minute. So that's one thing across the whole company. We start the meeting as soon as they hit changes on your cell phone. We start right away. If not enough people, we cancel the meeting. So to me, time, that's across the whole company. Everybody knows that's one of my pet peeves. We start on time, no matter what. And then we usually, depending on the group, we usually have a joke or two. We usually guys have groups. The group that reports to me is called the S7. We're 7 people and the S changes every month. So this month, just to give you an idea, this month we're the Stout 7. Last month with the Sigma, Scaling, Sage. So we have fun. We try to have fun. Then we get serious, right? But it is we do get personal. How's everybody doing? Everybody tells a little bit about their personal thing going on with the kids and all that kind of stuff. Then we get into business. But there's always a personal touch before we start the meetings. Always. It's just the way it is. It's not just about work. It's about, hey, we talk a little bit about our family, what's going on. So.
Yeah, that's very creative.
It's just the way it's developed. It's developed that way. It's not something we forced. But the joke thing started. Okay, what's the joke today? And then we say a joke and everybody laughs and then we start the meeting. But usually we talk a bit about family, how everybody had Christmas holidays. Everybody talked a little bit about the holidays. So you got to get personal, right? This is not just that you come in. This is a big part of your life and it affects your personal life. So it's okay to talk about it. I consider the people I work with my friends, my second family. And so I know them. I know we all have things going on outside of work. We all try to help each other out. And nothing supersedes family, by the way, in a company. You go take care of your family things first. This is secondary. Doesn't matter. So we're very open with everybody. If you got things going on at home, you put this aside. We'll deal with it.
You mentioned earlier the sense of family. I know a lot of companies that put like, oh, we are a family. I work also in an organization that they call themselves a family until the day that they had layoffs. And I work with a lot of organizations that go through hard time. AI has a huge impact in the technology sector right now. So major layoffs, major changes, transformations in organization. So did you ever needed to lay off people? I mean, not one or two, and how that affected the sense of or the notion of a family?
Yeah. So I call it team, by the way. I don't call it family. So I call it Team Ardurra. The group is a team. Since I started this company, we've been in very good times. Our industry's in very good shape. We got lots of tailwinds, a lot of work. We have too much work, actually, not enough workers. But you mentioned AI. We've been actually implementing a lot of AI stuff. And I'll be honest with you, there are going to be some reductions. And we have made them. And I think the point is, sometimes you have to do what's better for the whole team. And I think people understand that we're not making decisions here just to cut things off for more money. We're making decisions because we have to keep up with what's happening in the world, in the industry. And it's to save the many, to sacrifice the few sometimes. And so we don't control that, Dave. The business, the marketplace, capital controls that. And so have we had to make tough decisions? Yeah. What I tell our leaders, it's a privilege for you guys to be able to make tough decisions. I'm not saying it's nice. I'm saying it's a privilege for you to be in that role. And if you don't want that privilege of making it, then you shouldn't be in that role. But it's easy to be a leader during good times, but you prove yourself to be a manager or leader during tough times when you have to make those decisions to save the many and sacrifice a few. So I've been through those areas where now it still bothers me, Dave. I don't sleep well the night before. And the day it doesn't bother me, then something's not right because we are affecting someone's livelihood. It's not a fun thing, but you still have to make those decisions sometimes.
Yeah. I think that this is a very healthy approach. The collective, they need, but it's more the internal collective. It's not for shareholders or the bottom line or the SEC.
But at the end of it all, we're running a business that has investors, a business that has to keep up with its competitors in its marketplace to make it better. And you have to. So AI is a good example. AI is not as much affecting as other industries for us, but it's still an affection. And there's areas sometimes don't work out that we have to let people go. And so, and some leaders are not made out for that. Some people cannot make those decisions. And that's okay, right? That's not everybody's made for that.
So I'm curious actually about you personally. What is the thing that you notice about yourself that changed in recent years in your leadership and the way that what did you work on because I feel that you actually you mentioned you have an executive coach, that you do some internal work to continue to improve your leadership. What do you see change in you in the last few years?
So, I was talking about this recently. I don't know if it's me or it's of age, potentially. I don't stress out much. I don't worry about things as much. I'm a guy who sleeps 7 hours straight. I don't worry about things. Things seem to kind of just roll off, even tough times. And I wasn't like that. There was a time in my life where I worried more about things. I seem to let things go much easier. And maybe that's life too, Dave, as you grow. But I got used to not worrying about all the details and looking at the big picture and just being able to make a decision. And I'm just not a stressed out individual. I never really was, but less and less now. It takes a lot to get me stressed out. I'm just not a stressed out guy. And I think partially it's a bit of confidence, partially so you get used to it. And partially I think you learn that there's no point in getting stressed out. You can't make decisions. So that's the one thing I've noticed. I don't seem to get stuck on things that worry me, my headache. I just move on and fix it and move on. So that's one thing I've noticed. And I can't tell you how I got there. I don't know.
You didn't do anything to get there? It just happened naturally?
I think partially you get used to the role. I think partially as you get older in life, these little things that seem like little stuff is not a big deal anymore. I think that's part of it. I think you get a bigger team to help you. I don't know. Or maybe it's just aging and getting more mature, Dave. I don't know what it is. I wish I could tell you, but I have noticed in me that I'm not as stressed as I used to be.
I see a strong correlation actually between that and ego. You mentioned that letting go of ego, don't have a big ego. There is the maturity that you just mentioned. The reflection of that is the reduction of the ego. As long as the ego is very strong, it's very difficult to get matured. And I think that there is also a correlation to not be driven by fear. Because once you're driven by fear,
true.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dave, I'm not scared of much. I hate to say that, but I'm not. I think partially you get so many years of experience and all that. I don't lead by fear. And sometimes we make tough decisions and I just go forward. I'm not scared to make those decisions. So like I said, maybe it's years of experience. It's not just me. I think as you get old, the same thing in life in general, right? I worry less about things. Don't know. Maybe it's my wife. She's a calm person.
Mm-hmm. So what do you recommend somebody that's starting any company?
Don't do it. No.
I mean, like to get to that, you created something that was very unique. So maybe, is it just an industry related or in any other companies, you believe that people can develop a company in the way that you develop that with fluidity of organization structure? How you recommend them to do that?
Yeah, I think, you hear the thing, you live once. People say that. That's not true. You die once. You should live every day. So I think I don't want to be on a deathbed and saying, I had a great conservative life. I was very safe. I did everything easy. So I've always taken gambles. So I think people need to kind of look at the end of the day, when you're looking back on life, did you accomplish a lot of things? Did you try a lot of crazy things? And so I always tell people, just challenge yourself to be open, to be able to live life and try different things. If you don't try, nothing's going to happen. No one's going to help you out. So to me, if you really believe in something, believe in yourself, and you want to have fun, you might fail. You're going to fail. Definitely you're going to fail. But if you have fun at it, you'll learn and you'll get more out of life. And so I took many chances, Dave. I actually started my first firm when I was in my 20s, and it was a struggle. I learned so much what not to do. And I just think people should live life and try and go for failures and learn a lot of things. And then you'll succeed in many ways. So don't be scared. I heard this term, go in scared until you're scary, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So we cover a lot about your leadership, and I'm curious about how do you, especially in 2,000 people organization, how do you actually share what you know when you are so farly remote from people that joining the company nowadays? How do you get this culture to continue what you mentioned about in a larger organization? It's easy to do it in a few hundred people, but when you get to the thousands, that's more difficult. What is the secret sauce here?
Just to tell you, 2017, we were 100 employees. So we've grown.
You're kidding. 2017?
Yeah. We've grown
from 100 to 2,000 over a decade?
Not even 8 years. In 8 years, we've gone to over 2,000 employees.
That's exponential growth. This is really fast.
Yeah,
growth.
we're one of the fastest growing engineering firm in the US. So the leaders we have, we're all on board. Everybody is an ambassador to what we're trying to create. I told you that employee council, right? The 30 employees. They're a big part. So employees go to them when they have things to do. So they're our ambassadors too. They're all working together. As the company gets bigger, that employee council has become very important. I try to go to a lot of these. We have, I think, about 100 offices, 105 offices in the US. So I try to get to the big ones, but the rest of the leadership team does the same thing. We do have every quarter, we have company-wide calls, tell them what's going on. They can ask any question. And I also have an open, you can call me anytime. You can set up an appointment, any employee can. And you can have half an hour with me to talk about things. And I get every month someone call me on it. So I believe size does not dictate what your culture is going to be. I think you can still do it. That's what we're trying to prove, that you can be big and still maintain the culture. You just have people believe what we're trying to do, right? If people believe, they'll champion it. So I think we have enough leaders in this company that are championing what we're trying to do. And that's where we're moving forward. But yeah, Dave, we've grown quite fast. I don't think you realize from 100 to it's actually going to be even bigger here soon. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's really a challenge. A lot of CEOs feel like it's very difficult to scale the company. And even with the tailwind that you had, in 2000, I worked for an organization in Asia that I actually faced the same challenge, like almost in that speed that you mentioned. And it was very challenging to find a talent, a leadership team. And the biggest challenge was actually the leaders that work for 100 sometimes don't have the capacity that you need to lead the 500 and 1,000. So I'm curious, how did you deal with that scaling up the organization? How did you scale the leadership at the same time?
Yeah, so the CFO, COO, the chief growth officer, those people that report to me, they did not come through acquisitions. They worked at bigger companies that came here. They're just networking. They did not, because some of these smaller companies cannot scale this company. So all that group, so it's a combination of smaller companies and big company guys. You got to mix them. Now, the smaller company guys, they still run their region locally. But no, I had to bring in leadership from outside just acquisitions to be able to scale this. You're right. They couldn't do it. They don't have that expertise. But they've learned to appreciate each other. They understand that they may not have that experience. But likewise, these guys don't have the experience of local leadership, right? So that's how we kind of worked each other. But yeah, you got to scale both. Now, this company's been built on networks. Just to let you know, we hire about 20 to 50 employees a month, and half of those employees come from our employees. So we're very reliant on our company bringing employees in. That's what we're our employees. And so a lot of the employees who are here, we all know each other from different parts of our careers. And that's how the company has grown so fast.
Do you have any kind of a formal referral program for those?
We do for the employees, not for the senior managers, but we do for employees. Yes, it's pretty hefty. I'd rather give the money to them than a recruiting agency. We have 7 full-time recruiters ourselves. So we're always recruiting because we're growing so much. But you have to have the employees believe and that they want to bring their friends over here. And that's how we've been growing. If you would have asked me 7 years ago, 8 years ago, that we'd be this size, I wouldn't have believed it. But even organically, we're growing quite a bit organically. I think we hired, 600 people last year organically?
So the major growth is a recent growth. I want to ask about the employee council. That's kind of an interesting idea. How did you get it from?
I got it from my last company. No, that was our own idea. I noticed that the employees didn't know what the company was doing. And I said, what a lost opportunity for the company to be growing so fast and not have the employees be part of the growth. So I just came up with it with one, I think it was the human resources person. We were just talking once. He goes, let's start an employee council. Kind of a bit of an experiment. And that's how it came out from. I just didn't see it in other companies doing it like that. So it was kind of like a unique idea we came up with.
Are they elected? Are they nominated? How does it work?
Interesting thing, Dave, I've actually stayed out of that process purposely. I started initially like 7, 8 years ago, and now they do their own thing. I don't know, and I think it's best to stay out of it so that they're independent. I know they rotate them. I think they have a 1 or 2 year terms, and then they switch them out. But I actually purposely stay out of those decisions. I don't know how they do it. So they can be independent. They can do their own thing. So I'm not involved.
So what they're doing, even though you're not involved, what is the role of that employee council?
They come up with their own role. Their goal is to, example, we just last year developed our new mission and vision. Okay. So we got groups the employees came up with the mission vision statement. They have 40, 50 people in the company came up with their mission vision. So they actually decide every year what they're going to work on. What do we need the company to do better internally? And they come up with, we don't tell them. They actually come up with their own agendas, what they're going to do that year or what they want to work on. They tell me after when they want to implement certain things, and that's been why it works, Dave, because they are on their own. They do their own thing. They tell us. It's not us mandating to them what they should be doing. Their goal is to make this a better company for both the employees and for the clients. We want everybody to have a great experience. That's their mandate. And whatever that means, they'll come up with it. Sometimes they ask me, any opinions? But rarely, which is good. I prefer not to tell them what they should be working on. Yeah, it's worked out really well. I wouldn't have imagined. It's worked out extremely well. I don't know why more companies don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, there is a book by Frederick Laloux, a researcher about future organization. I don't remember the book name, Future Organization or something like that. And what he called that a self-managed organization, which is, I think that model that you have is as close as I ever heard about that self-managed organization.
Now, they've come up with stuff with us, which doesn't make sense and where we can't afford it. And I have told them, guys, appreciate you guys working, but this is why it won't work. And we explain to them. They go, oh, okay. Because they're not business people generally, right? But they've come some with stuff and we just have to explain to them why. And they appreciate that. They're learning too. Guys, this won't work because of this. But most of the time it's a yes. But sometimes it's, guys, this is going to cost us, going to bankrupt us, right? And so they're learning too. But yes, it's worked out great. I want people to believe, I want people to know that they are part of building this company with us, not just us. And so it's worked. And you know what? When you do that, Dave, they're going to give you more than 200% back because it's not a job for them. It's a career.
Yeah. It's a collaboration across the vertical organization all the way.
So people ask, how did you guys grow so fast? That's the reason. Because everybody believes in what we're trying to do and everybody's giving it 100%. We invest in people who want to, if you have a champion. So I've done stuff, Dave, that I haven't been into. I go, I don't know if that's a good idea, but this guy's so much into it. He's such into it. He's got a champion that's going to work. We're just going to invest in that person. That's the way it's worked. That's the way it's worked. So if someone really has a great idea, we have our own Shark Tank. Here's another idea. So we have our own Shark Tank. We actually have employees come in, and if they have a good idea on technology, we will actually make prototypes and invest in. We have 4 projects going on right now that are going through processes to actually for us to have branding things on it. Incredible projects, but we do have our own Shark Tank, and we actually put 7 figures of investment into that dollar. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ernesto, I would like to respect your time. I think that we could have continued for another few hours.
I
This
don't know.
conversation,
Yeah.
I find it, you bring so many things that I never heard before from any CEO on the show or from any of my clients either. So I really appreciating.
Yeah, you're not going to put this on, right? But let me tell you, why it's worked for us is that we get the employees excited and then they stay. This Shark Tank thing has been a boon for us. We've come up with some ideas that are just incredible and employees love it. They keep coming up with these ideas. Some of them are not great, but some of them are phenomenal ideas. And we just help them go through prototypes and their ideas and make them to life. And so we have a whole bunch of programs like that we're doing.
So now I'm so regretting that I scheduled only 1 hour with you.
No, it's good. I think an hour more than that, people will get tired of me. So
I think that every CEO should watch this interview. Seriously. Sir, I just want to bring this to a close. I really want to share with you to really thank you for your time and brilliant ideas. And I will definitely continue to follow you and see what's coming in your life and your business. Thank you for being on the show.
Oh, no, thank you, Dave. Appreciate the invite and the conversation.